Robert.
Joseph.
How are you today?
I'm doing well. Actually, I'm kind of sad.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Because of what we're talking about today?
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, we started a conversation on it before hitting record, and this is a big one.
Yeah.
Which we're going to...
Well, and if you read the chapter, the chapter's just sad.
It is? Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so welcome everybody to Beyond Sunday, Joel and Rob's podcast, where we are exploring Bronnie Ware's book, The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. We're on regret number 2. We're joined by Flat Joel today.
I missed him. He's my bud.
He's been kind of just hanging out in my office, laying down, because I don't know what to do with him.
And I figured, we're the ones who fell in love with him during your sabbatical.
Let's bring him up to the podcast today. We needed a little something behind us.
It's good to see you, old friend.
You know. But before we get going, it's my turn for a TV show theme song. So last night we were at a meeting together virtually, and we're texting after the meeting, and then it was 9:30. Family was asleep. I knew, so I started looking up a song. And I found a gold mine on Wikipedia, like in alphabetical order, just a mass of TV show theme songs. They all were there.
So I started to go hunting for this.
I started to go through. So today we dip into one that I am almost positive that you have seen, though I'm not sure you're going to recognize it.
Ooh, I love these.
I need to tease it out a little bit.
Oh,
so last night I'm downstairs in our basement after the meeting, just kind of like thinking about this.
Mr. Burns. Excellent.
You know, I get excited about these where he knows the show, but I'm not sure he knows the theme song. So it's instrumental, and I think we saw it in reruns. I'm pretty sure. I think it was filmed in the 70s, but we saw it in reruns in the 80s. But I'm pretty sure you saw this one. I watched it. I remember my brother and I watching it from 5 to 6 o'clock before dinner at the
fascinating,
at the Strom household.
Okay, so this was in syndication, but like at a weird time of syndication. At dinner time.
Let's see. Let me make sure this is nice and loud. Here we go. Wait for it. Horse-drawn carriage.
Dynasty?
Nope. Kids running to their parents.
Oh, thank you so much. Is this Little House on the Prairie?
Yes!
I would have never gotten it without your hints. Yeah, I've seen it, but you know me so freaking well.
I wouldn't have got this myself. I mean, if you gave it to me, I would have been like, what are you talking about here?
Wow. Such a classic. Allison's over there. She knew it right away.
She did.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Michael Langdon,
yep.
Right?
Yep.
And then what was Laura Ingalls Wilder? What was her name?
I don't know.
But I remember my brother and I watching it from 5 to 6. Loved that show.
Really?
Yeah.
It was so relatable to your life in Connecticut.
Yes, it was. Yeah. We lived in Farmington, so a thriving farming community.
You loved to run through the field with the daisies.
Yeah, I love that show. Yeah,
that's the only thing I can picture actually. That's from the theme song, right? The girl running through the field. All
3 of them, all like 3 kids, I think, are slowly running as they come up in their horse-drawn carriage.
What I thought every time I saw that episode? Thank God I live in today. I mean, just thank God I live with running water and electricity and television, because that looks like hell.
Yeah. Yep.
That's my unabashed take on Little House.
Appreciate you being honest. So, we're in week 2 of our series where we are exploring top 5 regrets of the dying. Bronnie Ware, again, was a palliative care nurse, and these were, from her time with patients, these were the top 5 that she experienced. So first, a little shout out to last week's episode. We had some great comments, and one, Julie Kays, noted a book she's read recently, which she had told me about recently too, and I saw her on Homecoming. She talks about Stephen Jenkinson's book, Die Wise, where she shares this quote, which I thought it gets at the heart of what we're talking about. Seeing the end of your life is the birth of your ability to love being alive. And I think that is...
Can you repeat that?
That gets at what we are doing here. Seeing the end of your life is the birth of your ability to love being alive. So to recognize that life comes to an end allows you to take a step back and be more present, focused on today.
Wow, Die Wise. Thank you, Julie Kays.
Yeah. And so today's regret, this is number 2, is... Wow. I wish I hadn't worked so hard. Mm-hmm. So we've talked about this one even before.
Oh, yeah.
We started looking at this book. We'll tell the story in a second from the book. But as I was looking it up recently, I didn't see this in the chapter, but it was noted in this article I read where Bronnie said that she heard this regret from every male that she spent time with. And she said she heard it from women, but not as much, partially because of there wasn't as much women working who were at the end of life during her time as a palliative care nurse, and she notes that very well will probably be changing with both genders working more.
Sure.
But it was expressed in every single male.
Isn't that telling?
Isn't that telling? And so she, in this chapter, she shares the story of a man who his wife has retired. He is able to retire financially. They are ready, and his wife is kind of yearning for him to retire so they can go and enjoy their last years together and travel, and he can't let go of work. He can't let go. And for 15 years, he keeps on working until he decides he will. He says...
Thanks to a tearful conversation he had with his wife. His wife was in tears.
He says, in 1 year, I will do it. And then 3 months later, she's diagnosed with a... I
don't think it says, but...
terminal disease.
But yeah, terminal disease.
And his remaining time with her is spent caring for her. But the part that is tragic is the rest of his life, he lives in regret.
Regret.
For those years of not letting go of work. And he's able to kind of articulate like what was holding him back.
Yes.
Which I would say kind of in a nutshell maybe is in work he found identity. Which is I think probably the number one reason of why work can be, why that regret is common at the end of life, is we're able to answer that question, who am I, in what we do.
And in 2 ways, right? So, identity through his occupation. And he even owns, I didn't particularly enjoy my work.
Yeah.
But he identified as as that. Like, his identity came through his occupation, not ready to give up his identity. And then also, to his great credit, he was able to identify status.
Yes.
And I liked the status that my work enabled me to achieve. Status, and it doesn't get into it, but I mean, reading between the lines, status in your social class, status in the car you drive, status in the
community,
how
people see you,
exactly, how big your house is, the clothes you wear, the company you keep. None of which he was able to articulate ultimately were what brought him joy.
And I think his name's John in this chapter. He does say, and Bronnie backs it up too, that there's nothing wrong with loving your work.
No,
there's something very healthy about it. Like we
hope you do love your work.
Exactly, we love our work, but he stresses the balance. He says, I didn't have the balance of work and who am I outside of work.
Yeah, even noting that he was lonely now.
Yeah.
Since his wife died, he was lonely. And that's the problem with when your identity comes from what you do instead of who you are. Because when it's what you do, it's your identity is predicated on accomplishment. But when it's who you are, your identity tends to be built within relationship.
Yeah. And the previous one on what you do, you're almost always then, and I've done this, so that I own this. You're constantly trying to chase a carrot. You never fully achieve what you want to achieve.
No, there's always another accomplishment to be made. Yeah. He didn't retire because his business was being sold and there was a big merger and he wanted to see it through. And so he said he would retire in a year, and his wife didn't make it a year.
Yeah.
So, there's always something else. Always.
That's one of these, that speaks to this, this regret.
And the whole focus of your sabbatical.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a gift. That's a gift to the whole of us.
Yeah.
And driving that home, that to live life fully, you have to find that balance.
Well, and I'll share this. Part of what sabbaticals do for you, can do if you're open to it, is they let you get away from what you do that tells you who you are. Mm-hmm. And for me, I love being a pastor, and I got to kind of take a look and go, ooh, a lot of my identity, who I say I am, is built up in being a pastor. And so, again, to get back to, it's not that we shouldn't love what we do. I do love what I do. I love being a pastor, but also what's the balance and what's the boundary,
And when you have that, you love what you do more.
Yes.
I've talked before about what I call the R word, resentment. And when I sense that building up in me, I've learned, oh my gosh, okay, it's time to step back and pay attention to why I'm resenting what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
When I'm sitting in my office and I'm feeling resentful that I'm sitting in my office. Okay, so the balance is off, and let me explore that.
Yeah.
Or when I have to go to a meeting, or who knows what it is, when I'm taking on a project that my cognitively I recognize there's a lot of value here, and yet, unconsciously that resentment just begins to build up until you finally, I'm really resentful that I have to do this. Like, what is that?
Yeah.
When the balance is there and you're not working too much and you're getting fed through the other aspects of life that bring you joy, resentment doesn't build up. At least from that balance perspective. And so that I've really learned to pay close attention to that.
Yeah.
And that's been very, very helpful for me.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I think has been helpful for both of us is being okay with enforcing boundaries that maybe others aren't okay with.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no, I'm not going to go to that meeting because I don't have a conflict, but I need to be home. I want to be home.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go home. I'm not gonna be at that meeting.
Yep.
You know, and giving yourself permission to go countercultural that way.
Yeah. 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 Well, and you said it earlier that this is not a quick fix. All 5 we're going to explore here. It's not a all right, tomorrow I'm going to just master this one. No,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to start hopefully thinking about it a little more and start chipping away at it. Okay, how might this regret? How might it eventually be manifesting itself in me? And what might I want to do today to take just a step
Well said.
in another direction?
So well said.
And that's really all we can do with these is to start slowly. So, thanks for joining us, everybody. We will be back next week. I'm not even
Better than ever.
sure what next week's regret is, but I'm sure it will. I'm sure it'll be challenging us incredibly.
Hit you like a 2x4 across the face.
Gosh, I know. Until then, have a great week. We'll see you next time.